Hello, second grade. So today you're going to make your own mask, and I've made some patterns for you because a lot of my students like to create a mask that they can wear. That's a wearable mask. So I have 4 different patterns for you to choose from if you want to make a wearable mask. If you do not want to make a wearable mask and you just want to make a mask for decoration, then you won't need one of these templates. Here's an example of a mask that's not wearable. So I just used cut paper and some crayon and newspaper to create my mask. So I kind of tried to make it look a little bit like an animal with ears and the nose. And then I used newspaper strips and glued those across the back. And I curled some of them and I left some of them straight. And then this is just a mask for decoration that's not wearable. So the eyes are not cut out. For a wearable mask, if you wanted to use one of these 2 patterns, you would get yourself a large paper. You would take the pattern, lay it down on the paper, and trace around it. This pattern here I wrote top so that you knew that this was the top of the mask and this was the bottom of the mask. So you would lay this down. I'm going to try and save myself some time by lining up the top of the mask with the top of the paper. It'll save me from cutting, and then you need to trace around the eyes. So now you want to decorate your mask. So you can use oil pastel, crayons, markers. You can use tempera cakes and paint on the mask. You can make it an animal mask, or you could make it a human mask, whatever you want. And I'm going to start with pencil so I can get it just the way I want it. And then I would use some sort of drawing media to add color to this. Since this is already a colored paper, construction paper crayons would look really nice on here and bright. I could use a Sharpie marker to trace over my drawing first, and then use construction paper crayons to color in. But then you're going to cut your mask out. So this mask is not finished. And then you're going to cut the eyes out. So you want to kind of bend your paper and snip right in the middle of the eye. So you're going to kind of bend the paper and put a little snip there with your scissors. And then you put your scissors inside the eye and you turn your paper as you cut. And you try to cut these out as neatly as possible. Then I want to add probably some hair, and I can just take these strips and I could curl them. I could get myself a marker and wrap the strip around the marker. Squeeze it a little bit and then pull the marker out, and I have a curl. I could fold it back and forth. I could fold it this way, then fold it back. And now fold it up and down, back and forth like this, so that I get a zigzag. And I could glue these on. And I could glue them on the front, or like I did my other mask with a newspaper, I could glue the strips onto the back. And then I could have some interesting hair hanging over the top of my mask. So you need to design your mask the way that you want. You need to put some effort into it, put some time into it. This wouldn't nearly be close enough to be finished. But once it is finished and ready to go, then what you want to do is punch some holes. So you're going to use a hole punch, and you want to push the hole punch in as far as it will go and punch a hole. And then do the same on the other side. Push your hole punch in as far as it'll go, punch a hole. And then I'm going to give you 2 pieces of yarn. I'm not going to give you 1 piece of yarn. I'm going to give you 2 pieces. Because 1 piece, there's no way to know how long that 1 piece should be. But if we do 2 pieces, then it doesn't matter. We can tie them each to the hole. So you're going to push it through the hole. You're going to tie a knot. So it's that first step to tying your shoes. Loop, swoop, and tie, and then do it again. Loop, swoop, and tie. 1 on one side and 1 on the other. And then by doing it this way with 2 pieces of yarn, we can make our mask whatever size it needs to be. We can make it fit our face, but we could also take it off and make it fit a friend's face. So here it is. Then what you would do is you would flip your mask over, put it on your face, and then you would tie these in a bow around the back of your head. And then you can make it however tight or loose that you want it to make. And you tie it in a bow like this around the back of your head. And then when you're finished wearing it, you can just pull and untie the bow, and then somebody else could wear it that has a different size head. But if we only take one string and tie it to the other hole, we'd have to measure and make sure it fit your head, but it could only fit your head, and then we might even rip the holes. So that's why we do 2 pieces of yarn. So some people have wanted to do kind of the Mardi Gras style mask, so I wanted to show you how to do that. Both of these have the word top written on them, so you know what's the top and what's the bottom, because if you put them upside down on your face, this point might hurt your nose. So that's why I put the top on there. And you're going to fit this onto a piece of paper and trace around it with your pencil. And then you need to cut it out. Now if you can use this extra scrap, wonderful. If you cannot use it, you need to put it in the scrap drawer in the correct color. Black falls under the neutral colors, so you would put it in the neutral scrap drawer. Now I need to cut the eyes out, so I'm going to snip here and here. Alright, and then you need to decorate it. Since this is the top, you need to add some stuff up there. You could even add some things hanging down if you wanted. I'm going to try and do feathers, and I'm going to make them out of paper since I don't have real feathers to work with. So I'm going to take this red paper, because I'm going to do a bunch of red feathers, and I'm going to fold it up so I can cut more than one feather out at a time. And I'm going to draw some feather shapes, which are like ellipse or football shapes, onto my paper, and I'm going to cut those out. And I'm going to try and cut this pencil line off so you can't see the pencil line anymore. And as I cut this out, I get 4 feathers at a time, all in one cut. So I don't have to cut out 4 separate feathers, I can cut 4 out at one time. So it's going to save me a little bit of time. Okay, this can be recycled. And then I want these to look real with some texture. So I'm going to cut some diagonal lines, short diagonal lines, little slits along the side. And I cut diagonally down towards the bottom of the feather. So this is the top of my feather and this is the bottom. And then I can take each feather and kind of crinkle up the ends where the feather is to make it look more realistic and have a little bit of texture. So if you wanted to add feathers to your mask, you would just have to make them out of paper like me, since I don't have real feathers for us to work with. But I think they look just as nice as real feathers. So now I have another set of 4 feathers shapes, and I'm cutting slits into those, and then I pull them apart one at a time and kind of bend. Okay, and since we know this is the top of the mask, that's where I'm going to glue these feathers on. I'm going to start on one side, and I think maybe I'll just make this an asymmetrical mask, and I'll just put feathers on one side of the mask. I'm pushing them down into the glue so they get stuck, and now I'm going to do another line of glue in front and do another row of feathers. That looks nice, and I like the asymmetrical. I like it just being on one side, but you might want to put more feathers on this side. So let's see, I've got 3 left over. I'd hate for these to go to waste, so maybe I'll add some more here. Okay, I made a bit of a glue mess right there, but the glue will dry clear, so I'm not going to mess with that glue too much since it'll dry clear. And I only have 1 leaf feather left over, so I think I'm just not going to use that one. So then I could use construction paper crayons to draw some designs over here if I wanted. I could take some scrap paper and I could add some decoration. So let's see. For the other side, Now when we made our African mask, I talked about symmetry and making it the same on both sides. But your mask does not have to be symmetrical. So I'm making an asymmetrical mask, a mask that is not the same on both sides. And so I think this mask is finished. So now what I want to do is punch my hole and tie my yarn. So it's still wet with glue, so I need to be real careful when I punch my hole. And I don't have a lot of space here on the sides of the eye, so I'm going to punch my hole just a little bit higher above my eye a little bit so I can get my hole punch in as far as I can reach, because the farther in I punch my hole, the easier and less likely it will be to rip out. So I'm going to punch my hole here. And now be careful to pull that out so I don't mess up my feathers, and then try to make sure I punch my hole in the same spot on this side. And then you'll come see me for 2 pieces of yarn, and we'll tie the yarn to the mask. And don't forget, you need to always write your name on the back of your mask. And so that's how you create a wearable mask. And I want you to come up with some of your own ideas. I don't want you just to copy what you saw me do just now, but I wanted to show you how you would create a wearable mask that you could be proud of. Good job, Sam.